I wish I had good news to report to you guys, but I do not. Welcome into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. It's Jeffrey Cooperstein here. Hope everyone's enjoying their week so far. And the Mavericks have gone through 2 practices in training camp, and they already have about 7 injuries that we have to talk about. So let's do it. But before we do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and help us out as we try to get to 33,000 subs as soon as we possibly can. Look, no sugarcoating it. It's a disaster. This is the exact thing that could not have happened for the Mavericks during the preseason and training camp. They needed to come into this season healthy, and it's not going to happen. We'll start with Daniel Gafford, who signed a 3-year, $54 million extension with the Mavericks this offseason. In preseason practice number 1 in Vancouver, Gafford has an ankle sprain, and he will be out 2 to 3 weeks. Well, the Mavericks begin the 25-26 NBA season 2 weeks and 6 days from now against the San Antonio Spurs. Is Gafford going to be playing opening night? My guess is probably not. And what does this do? This is a trickle-down effect because you have Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, and Gafford. Now that Gafford is out, who may have started opening night, now you're going to have Anthony Davis play more 5. What does Anthony Davis not want to do? Play more center. What do the Mavs not want Anthony Davis to do? Get injured. How do you get injured easier? By playing a more physically taxing position in center. This is the worst thing that could have happened to the Mavericks, outside of actually Anthony Davis getting hurt himself, who, by the way, is not fully healthy and recovered from his eye injury and came into training camp overweight. I just can't with this team. It's always something, and this Gafford injury, hopefully he doesn't miss many games at all, but if he does, you're relying on the injury-prone Derek Lively and the injury-prone Anthony Davis to stay healthy. We're not even to the first preseason game yet, and we already have an injury crisis on our hands. I just don't know when this team is finally just going to have a normal week where something disastrous doesn't happen, whether it's on or off the court. It'll be the first week in about 26 of them for it to happen. Unbelievable. So Daniel Gafford is out 2 to 3 weeks, to recap, and probably the preseason or the regular season opener is in jeopardy for him. Then you have Brandon Williams, who has a hamstring strain and is out for at least 1 week. If you know anything about hamstrings, and I'm not a doctor, so don't take medical advice from me, but if you know anything about hamstrings, they are never 1 week injuries. It is never a 7-day thing for a hamstring. I don't care who you are. If it's baseball, football, basketball, whatever sport, hamstrings are not 1 week injuries. And the thing about Brandon Williams is he's kind of on the roster bubble. Like, they brought in Dennis Smith Jr. on a training camp tryout basis. What if Dennis goes off in the preseason and he really impresses the Mavericks coaches in front office? Brandon Williams isn't playing. That's absolutely a negative for him. I'm not saying Brandon Williams is going to get cut for sure, but it certainly increases his chances of being released from this team by opening night. I still think it'll end up being Williams on the opening night roster, but having an injury in preseason where you're not available for your team certainly does not help things. Availability is your best ability. Brandon Williams not being available does not help his case to make this team whatsoever. Now, if I had to put it, if it was, let's call it an even playing field where both players are healthy, I think Williams is probably 90% to make the team, maybe even 95% to make the team over Dennis Smith Jr.'s 5. But if he's hurt and Dennis is going off and really impressing everybody, he shows the ability to run the team, to attack on the offensive end. Mavericks might have a decision to make when it comes to Brandon Williams. Oh, and by the way, your other point guard, Danté Exum, has not even practiced yet. Who knows what's wrong with Danté? I mean, he only played 20 games last year after multiple breaks in his hand and whatever else he was dealing with. So God knows where he could be and if he's going to be ready for opening night. So in summary, Daniel Gafford out 2 to 3 weeks with the sprained ankle. Brandon Williams, they claim out 1 week with the hamstring strain. I will be shocked if Brandon Williams is back in 1 week after a hammy. Danté Exum hasn't even practiced yet. So we'll see what happens with him. PJ Washington, by the way, bumped his head, but he's expected to practice tomorrow, so PJ should be fine. This is the worst news possible for the Dallas Mavericks. Their team is never healthy. They are never on the floor, and you cannot see what this team's full potential will be until you get 100% healthy. I cannot remember the last time this team was 100% healthy. It has not happened very often. And what is Jason Kidd supposed to do? Like, how is Jason Kidd supposed to coach his team the way he wants them to be coached if he doesn't have all of his players available to him? It's absolutely ridiculous. What is your concern level on the Mavericks injuries heading in to the 25-26 NBA season? I'm going to go scale it of 1 to 10. I'm going to go like a 9. Like, it's extremely concerning. They had to start out fast in this year. They have 5 home games to start the season. It was absolutely paramount that this team came out of the gates flying. And now that few of their key players are going to be missing training camp and preseason, it's going to be very, very difficult to come out of the season in the way that you need to in order to make hay in this Western Conference. The West is unbelievably competitive, and the Mavericks are going to miss a golden opportunity to position themselves to have a good season here in October. I'm just beside myself right now about all these injuries that have happened. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe Daniel Gafford will be back and he'll end up being fine and whatnot. Maybe Danté Exum will practice next week and he'll be fine. And Brandon Williams will be fine. But as of right now, why should they get the benefit of the doubt? Because this team always has untimely, unfortunate injuries where guys are out for much longer than anticipated. So I'm very concerned with the injury crisis that the Mavericks are having right now. But you guys let me know down in the comments what you think. Look, it's a disaster for me. It's an absolute disaster for me. We'll get to the rest of the Mavericks news here in just a moment, but I do need to tell you about our sponsor, which, of course, is PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day, but being right on PrizePicks will get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this basketball season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Look, football season is well underway. We have basketball season coming up in just a couple of weeks, and PrizePicks is super simple to play. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. And one of the new features on PrizePicks that I absolutely love is they're offering stacks now, which means you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same PrizePicks lineup. So, for instance, on opening night, if you want to take the more on D'Angelo Russell points, rebounds, and assists, you can do that now with PrizePicks, which is the only app that allows you to do so. You can follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or just someone who picks you, hit the follow button. Check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. I've been following my friends. I've been following celebrity partners. You can do the same right now on PrizePicks. How you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, you can choose to flex play, which means you can even get paid if one of your picks does not hit. How do you play? Super easy. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, that's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. That link will be in the comments and description of today's show. Shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring this episode of Mavericks Today. I did want to address the Anthony Davis situation. Apparently, AD is designed coming into training camp at a weight that was more than his playing weight. He said because he loses so much during the season that he doesn't feel like he wants to come into camp like it at his playing weight, because then he will be too small and he will lose too much weight during the season. And I can sort of buy that, you know. I just thought it was ironic that he was coming into camp overweight when the entire reasoning from the Mavericks front office trading Luka was his conditioning. Look, I hope that this is true. I hope that Anthony Davis is, by October 22nd, ready to go and ready to come out firing, because God knows this Mavericks team is going to need it. This Mavericks team is desperately going to need Anthony Davis to be all-NBA Anthony Davis for 65-plus games. And I got to say, like, maybe it's unfair, but given the current injury crisis that this team is in, the more responsibility that is going to be on AD's shoulders, I have a hard time believing he's going to play 65 games. I hope he does. I hope he is able to come out and give the Mavericks the best possible effort that he can in every single game. Just don't see it happening. I'm sorry that I'm being like super pessimistic today, but just seeing all the injury news last night just angered me to no end. And hopefully it just doesn't extend to AD, and he's the one that stays healthy throughout the entirety of the season. They are going to need Anthony Davis. They are going to need D'Angelo Russell. They're going to need Cooper Flagg to stay as healthy as humanly possible. And they also mentioned that Anthony Davis, I believe, it was either AD or Clay, I can't remember, but one of them mentioned that they were going to put Cooper Flagg in positions where he's going to guard the opposing team's best wing. Guys like Kevin Durant, guys like LeBron James, guys out there, whoever else, name your Kawhi Leonard, like name your dynamic wing that Cooper Flagg might end up guarding. And I think that's good, especially early for Flagg to challenge himself and put him in positions that may be uncomfortable, because the Mavericks are going to need him to be in positions that are uncomfortable down the stretch. I hope that Flagg is able to hit the court running as well, because he's a guy that the Mavericks are going to rely on. Now, on the offensive end, I just think it's going to be a rough go of it for Cooper, especially at the start. Like, I don't expect him to shoot a very high field goal percentage from either the field or three-point range. So we'll see what happens there, but I do think that they're going to put him in situations that is going to be better for him in the long run. So if there's one exciting thing about watching the Mavericks this fall, I think it's going to be Cooper Flagg, and I can't wait to see how he does for the Dallas Mavericks. All right, that's going to do it for today's show, guys. I appreciate you for tuning in to Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. Sorry I was a bit of a Debbie Downer today, but these injuries just got me pissed off to absolutely no end. We'll keep you up to date if anything happens surrounding the Dallas Mavericks, so stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon here on the channel. Appreciate y'all for watching today.